I don't think the game's over.
Not done. We don't want to give up.
I don't think the game's over until...
Not done until the clock says 0. We don't want to give up to the clock says 0.
I don't think the game's over until triple zeros on the clock, triple zeros on the clock, triple zeros on the clock.
That's right. Welcome in another episode of Triple Zeros, episode 5 of Triple Zeros. Triple zeros on the clock. The game is not over until the clock says triple zeros. We're going to get right into it, man. A lot to talk about and not a lot of time to do it in. So here goes. First things first, NFL Week 5 reactions. The biggest thing, there are still 4 winless teams. The New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Washington Redskins are all still searching for that first victory of the 2019 campaign. The Jets lost handily, might I add, to the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a massacre of sorts. The Jets were on their third string quarterback and are like down in the fourth, but Sam Darnold is scheduled to come back, so that should be a positive for them. But they ended up losing to the Philadelphia Eagles 31-6. Philly was balling out on them, man. The 6 points came in the fourth quarter. Look, if you play fantasy football, the Philadelphia Eagles dang near carried you to a victory this week. It was really bad for Luke Falk. 2 picks, sacked 9 times. So, like, I want to put it into words, but it's really hard to formulate how awful they were. 3 of 14 on third down. They only went for 1/4, 128 total yards for the game, not just for a quarter. No, for the entire game. Only 3 turnovers, but like I said, Falk was sacked 9 times, and then backup quarterback David Fales had to come in. So that's quarterback number 4 now for the New York Jets. It's just not looking good for them at all. And 35-6. That's rough. 31-6, excuse me. That's rough. Moving on. The Miami Dolphins also suffered another. No, Miami Dolphins are on bye. Excuse me. So they remain 0-4 right now. That's, you come into the season and everybody predicted that they would be one of the worst teams this year, but to see it play out and to see how ill-equipped they seem to have been for how bad this year could have gone, or ill-prepared they are for how bad this year could have gone, they don't seem to have any real plan other than tanking, which is odd in football because of how much commitment guys have, how dangerous of a game it is. And we know that players can quit, and this is not a sport where you want guys quitting on your coach, on the team, or anything like that. So it's wild, but they still sit at 0-4. Like I said, them and the Jets are at the bottom of the AFC East right now. The Cincinnati Bengals have 0 offensive line. Got a couple of my bigger friends they called to see if they wanted to try out because they needed somebody to block for Andy Dalton. They are down to their 4th and 5th string receivers dang near. They just lost John Ross, like I said, to IR. AJ Green still has not returned yet from his injury. And when he returns, there are rumors that he might be traded. The Bengals ended up falling this weekend to the Cardinals 26-23 in a game that I actually said was going to go that way. Right? I just felt like the Cardinals were a little bit better prepared to take the Bengals down. I know that's weird because the Cardinals aren't prepared to take anyone down for the most part, but they are definitely a more talented team than the Bengals. Andy Dalton, 27-38 in that game, 71% completion, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, only 1 sack. Joe Mixon, 19 yards, 93 on the ground. Tyler Boyd, 10 catches, 123 yards and a touchdown. It's just not enough. They can't stop anybody. Kyler Murray was 20 of 32, 62%, 253, no touchdowns, no picks, though, and 1 sack. But he also had 93 yards on the ground himself, in addition to 91 from David Johnson. Oh, Kyler also scored a touchdown on the ground. So good for them to get off the schneid. Remember, they had that tie with the Detroit Lions. They were still one of the teams that were sitting back in the back, not quite waiting for that first victory on the year on the 2019 campaign. They finally got it against the lowly Cincinnati Bengals, who are, in my opinion, fighting with the Miami Dolphins for that top pick overall. Then you got the Washington Redskins, who met the New England Patriots this weekend. They ended up falling 33-7. It's not better at all. It's worse than the Eagles-Jets game. And what you saw was disaster from the Washington quarterback. Colt McCoy, 18 to 27, 66% completion yards, 66.7% completion, 119 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. They are fighting putting in Dwayne Haskins, interim coach Bill Callahan, because they fired head coach Jay Gruden, which brings us to this next point here. They fired Jay Gruden. They have Bill Callahan, veteran coach, offensive line guru, as the interim head coach right now. And he said that Dwayne Haskins is not even really an option, which is awful because they played him. He hasn't even gotten a start yet, but he's played. That's an indictment on the coaching staff. You could say that it's an indictment on Haskins, but I think when he came in, most people knew that he would be a project. You had anonymous coach, which already just tells you how much of a farce this really is. An anonymous coach came out earlier in the week and said that Haskins has trouble processing, reading defenses and making his way through reads and this, that, and the third, which sounded like a lot like typical rookie quarterback issues. So what I immediately took from that was either this is Gruden, who knew he was on his way out, or it's another coach that's failing his rookie quarterback. He's a rookie. I don't get already throwing him under the bus in that way, talking about his struggles when a lot of it has to be put on at the feet of the coaches who are charged with making sure that he is a complete player. He's not there yet. He'll get there, in my opinion. But again, saying that he's not, or saying that the reason that he struggled is because he can't do this, that, and third, processing defenses, making his way through his progressions, that's in part an indictment on you, coach. So you might want to look in the mirror before you go out there and throw around the fact that he's not ready to go. He's not even an option right now. Well, the team doesn't have many options. I don't know why you wouldn't want to get the experience. Now, they have protection issues, and that would be one. But if he said that, then I think everybody would have just moved on and not batted an eye. But to say that he's not ready is one that kind of knocks a little bit of pause when you step back and think, well, who's really at fault for that? That's just my 2 cents on it. I really think that they're doing him a disservice and themselves by not moving on instead of using these stopgap options like Colt McCoy right now. We know that he's not the answer. He's very limited what he can do. Let him be a coach, a mentor on the sidelines, and let Haskins go through these growing pains that he's going to have to go through. As a person who watched the Bears handcuff Mitchell Trubisky, watch him not progress now, knowing that what little we know and how unsettled everyone is on him and his ceiling in this organization, or for this organization, rather, because they all indications are that they're still all in on him. Who knows? There's no sense in delaying it. It's going to happen. He's going to have struggles. Let him work through them now while there's no expectations on the team. Get some a better draft pick to reinforce the weaponry around him and move on. But Colt McCoy, if Alex Smith was healthy and they try to do that these aren't the answer. You drafted him for a reason. Let him play, let him grow. Deal with it. Just deal with it. I know, especially Bill Callahan's position. I know a lot of coaches can be reluctant. John Fox, like I was talking about here in Chicago with Trubisky, John Fox, it was understandable because he was a lame duck coach, likely on his way out. It was unsure if it was because of him, because stories were that he wasn't even aware that Trubisky would be the pick until it happened. Was it him or was it Pace not wanting him to break him? Who knows? So I could get that for a regular coach who's on his way out, but Callahan's an interim coach who likely is not a real candidate for this job, just being honest. I think that he should go. At this point, the organization who has its hands in a lot of the operations there, football-wise, should just step in and say, start him, because you're going to waste time and you've already played him. You've already played him. I think I've said that here before. Once you put the rookie in, there's really no sense in going back. It doesn't make any sense to me. The question now becomes, though, out of those 4 teams, going back to the broader point, who gets that first win? The Jets, the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Redskins. As I mentioned, the Dolphins were on bye week last week, but they come back this week, and they will be taking on, I got it right here, the Dolphins will be taking on the Redskins. So somebody's coming out of that with a W. If the Dolphins lose to the Redskins, which you know what, I'm going to say right now, the Redskins, Dwayne Haskins will start. Assuming he gets to start, they will win. If they don't, then they won't win. But they might want that anyway. In Washington, I think the Dolphins will lose again. I think Miami's just the worst team right now, and I feel bad because my boy Josh Rosen is down there quarterbacking. and there's just nothing around him. And he's in a wasteland, and that team is just being torn down blatantly. And the guys who are left standing there just have to keep fighting and battling out. You hate to see it for guys like Devontae Parker, who struggle to stay healthy, but has been healthy so far this season. Kenyon Drake, who could never seem to break out. Like I said, my boy Josh Rosen. It's just tough. But one of them will come out a winner. I'm saying right now it's going to be the Redskins. The Redskins will not go 0-6. The Dolphins will fall to 0-5. That's just a little early prediction. The other one of the teams, the Bengals, are facing the Ravens. They're not going to get a victory. I'm just gonna go out on the limb here and say that the Bengals are not ready for the Ravens defense, which has been gashed lately, but I still think can handle the limited offensive abilities of Cincinnati Bengals unit. And then the Cowboys take on the New York Jets. I pity the Jets because they're going through so much right now. And pity, I'm using the term very loosely. What I really mean is they're about to get beat up. Dallas is going to be angry. They lost that game to the Packers, a whooping. Green Bay came in there and put a whooping with the hard H on Dallas in Jerry World. So Dallas is going to probably go to New York City and try to assert themselves, rediscover their mojo, as it were, because they did not look anything like themselves, especially defensively. That was the part that was really interesting to me, is how Green Bay ran the ball at will. Aaron Rodgers, who was down Devontae Adams for that game, was still able to do enough to get the Packers the W. It just Dallas fell off. 34-24 was the final score of that game. I could not pull it up for the life of me. That was a struggle. Rodgers, like I said, 24-34, 64% completion, 238, no touchdowns, no picks, taking 2 sacks, but he did enough. He did just enough to keep them alive, and Aaron Jones had a monster day, 19 carries, 107 yards. That's not the monster part. 4 tugs. Man crossed the goal line 4 times. Baller stats. And he caught 7 of 8 passes, 7 passes, 8 targets, 75 yards. Balling. 182 yards on 26 touches for Aaron Jones. That's nasty. Like I said, I feel bad for the Jets. They got to go and face Dallas after that thumping that they got put on them. The game was not nearly as close as the score would suggest. Dallas struggled for much of that contest. So that's one to keep an eye on. Like I said, so the one that I see getting a W would probably be the Redskins. I don't think the Dolphins have enough in the chamber to get them down, which is funny because the Redskins don't have much in the chamber themselves, but they got more than the Dolphins right now. The Bengals. It hurts because at one time when I was younger, the Bengals, I loved the orange helmet. It was so unique. I love the stripes. It's just tough to see them going through this right now. Andy Dalton's back there running for his life. They tried to do the right thing, getting out a new culture in there, new coach, and the offensive line just fallen to shambles. It's crazy. It's crazy to see how it's happened and how much they've struggled. AJ Green can't stay healthy. Like I said, rumors that he might be traded once he is healthy. John Ross has been battling injuries since he came into the league. It's just tough. It's rough, man. So, and the Jets, get prepared for what Dallas is about. Dallas, Zeke's going to eat. Zeke is about to eat. They're going to be upset if they don't win. Woo boy. Oh boy, Jerry's gonna be getting a lot of talks, and it's gonna get real messy for him. The other thing that happened in Week 5, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs struggled a bit against the Indianapolis Colts in Kansas City. 19-13 was the final score of that game. Patrick Mahomes, who has yet to throw an interception on the season, still 11 touchdowns, no picks, 22 of 39, 321 yards. A touchdown, sacked 4 times, and generally just looked uncomfortable in the pocket. Indianapolis is able to play man-to-man coverage. Justin Houston, after the game, it was revealed that Justin Houston was, let it be known, the receivers did not want it on the edges in man-to-man, so they were physical with them off the line, bumped them, and it seemed to throw them off enough to, like I said, they limited them to 13 points. That is the lowest point total at the end of the game for a Kansas City Chiefs team that was led by Patrick Mahomes since he became the starter, and that includes his one start at the end of the 2017 season when Alex Smith was sitting down. So clearly the blueprint, not clearly, let me not say clearly, because not every team can match up with that personnel who was diminished by injuries. Tyreek Hill is set to come back soon. There was no Sammy Watkins in that game. So let's not get too crazy you also didn't see much LaShawn McCoy. So let's not get too crazy about how well they did. But they did show that if you can man up with them, that it does give you some assist or aid you some in keeping Mahomes limited in what he can do. He still got – they didn't get – he got 13 points. It just looked, like I said, he looked generally uncomfortable in the pocket. The Indianapolis pass rush has come alive a little bit lately. Jacoby Brissett has been balling. And that's not a surprise because you saw that he had some potential. Usually when guys come in and they can play for the Patriots, that means that they have something going for them. To see him be able to continue it outside is good. Nothing spectacular. It's 18-29, 151 yards, no touchdowns, one pick. But the offense has looked crisp with him in there, and he doesn't make too many mistakes. Now, hopefully he can step up the playmaking ability a little bit, but I have been thoroughly impressed with what I've seen from him so far this season in relief, short notice relief for the entire year of Andrew Luck after his sudden retirement. The final, the final, I'm moving on too soon. Haven't even talked about the other two candidates in the MVP race. Like I said, it's got Patrick Mahomes, who was the front runner for the longest most of the season. It probably still is the front runner, but that lead has grown or has shrunken significantly. On the season, Mahomes has 1,831 yards, 11 touchdowns, no picks. Like I said, 65% completion percentage. But after that struggle, you have to wonder if a guy such as a Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks has not perhaps crept in there a little bit. He's 1,409 yards, 12 touchdowns, no picks, 73% completion. Now, you're not going to get the same amount of gaudy statistics from a Russell Wilson that you will from a Patrick Mahomes. Russ does not throw a lot. In fact, when you go to the league stats for the season, currently you have Patrick Mahomes ranked 5th in attempts, or in completions. Russell Wilson is 10th. But you go over to attempts, and you have Mahomes in 5th again, and you got Russ all the way down to 20th. Just to show you, like I said, 73% completion. Russ is out here doing crazy things efficiency-wise, and he still got 12 touchdowns. This is a team that wants to run the ball and is going to run the ball, but Russ still has 12 touchdowns, and that disparity in his completions per his attempts is obviously is explained by his completion percentage, but to show you where he ranks in comparison to a Patrick Mahomes who's doing a lot, that's not to take away anything of what he's doing, but to show you how crazy efficient Russ has been this season and how much I think he deserves that the MVP consideration. He's leading the league in touchdowns, as I said. Of course, a lot of that had to do with Mahomes not throwing a touchdown in that last game, but the fact of the matter is, Russ is killing it. Can we also talk about, surprisingly, how Derek Carr is leading the league in completion percentage at 73.3%? That's neither here nor there, though. And the other candidate that has to be under consideration for it is the do-everything running back for the Carolina Panthers, Christian McCaffrey. He, of the 587 yards on the ground, 6 touchdowns, 105 carries, McCaffrey, when Cam Newton went down, you would have thought that he would have just been, since he is the focal point for every defense, but he still currently leads the league in rushing yards, 587. The next is Dalvin Cook with 542. His rushing attempts, he leads the league there with 105. The next is Marlon Mack with 101. And rushing in yards per attempt, he comes in at 7th, 5.6, a healthy number. Again, with all the carries that he gets, it's not a surprise that he's lower than some, but to be in top 10 with all, when you know the defense knows that that's who's getting the ball, and he's still able to average 5.6 yards per attempt. And then he is tied for second with 6 touchdowns with Mark Ingram and Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley has 5 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, it's a quarterback award, but if there's ever a player who's going to be getting consideration for it, it has to be McCaffrey, who, in addition to the rushing numbers that I just told you, also has 31 catches for 279 yards and another touchdown, averaging 55.8 yards per game. That's just through the air, and a 77.5% catch rate. McCaffrey is doing everything for this team. Kyle Allen, that quarterback, who has had some good performances, but he's also been putrid other times. Let's just be real. It's a quarterback award, though. But like I said, if you got to include somebody, if you're going to include somebody, you should consider Christian McCaffrey and all the things that he's doing. Shut me up. I was a person who when he was coming into the league, had him pegged as a slot receiver in the making, that they were trying to pigeonhole or force feed into this running back role where at best he was a scat back. But if he was going to be a running back, it was going to be in small doses. I didn't think he would ever be able to hold up long term. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that he has indeed been much better than I have anticipated, at least for now. Hopefully his durability holds up, and I don't want to jinx anybody, knock on wood, but I really think that I'm really surprised, pleasantly surprised, and I think, like I said, it's Mahomes still right on his heels, though, has to be Russ. Crazy efficiency, still leading the league in passing touchdowns. Still top 10 in the completions and at 20th in attempts. Russ is doing crazy things. Don't sleep on him. I know he gets love nationally now that he didn't get before, but keep it going. Moving on, San Francisco 49ers joined the New England Patriots as the only teams to be undefeated in the NFL. So the question has to be asked, are the San Francisco for real? Again, they took down the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football, 31-3 in a dismantling. And the most interesting part about that game is the running game for San Francisco. They are doing some insane things. And for that game, you had Matt Breida get 11 carries for 114 yards. He also, getting a little sidetracked, I know, he had 3 more carries for 15 yards, but he had a touchdown as well. Tevin Coleman chipped in 16 in his return, 16 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. The Cleveland Browns defense was gashed. That is not a surprise. Shanahan is famous for his run game. His father is famous for the same run game. They could put me back there and I'd probably get about 800 yards. Not even gonna. That's no cap involved. That's just telling you the straight up and downs of it all. But the Browns, 1 of 11 on third down. Baker Mayfield, 8 of 22 for 100 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, sacked 4 times. The reason why I went to the Browns real quick and told you of Mayfield's stats and just left it to that, there's no way that you can convince me that this is a fluke. And the reason I say that is because I know the 49ers, it's still early in the season, and we know how quickly things can change. But when your defense plays that well, as I mentioned this numerous times, a person who follows the Bears very closely, I can tell you that if your defense can get the confidence to perform on a high level consistently, then there's room for the offense to not necessarily stagnate, but they can lack somewhat because no one's expecting you to do much anyway. So they're not Super Bowl bound. That's not the point here. The point is that they can grow as a team, and in that vein, they'll be able to mature. Like I said, they have a very solid defense. Now they haven't played anybody, so that has contributed to their undefeated streak. So the question that you see at the bottom here at the lower third, do I think that they're for real? I think that they will win the games that they should win or that they can win. I think that they will struggle. They get a real test in week 6 against the Rams. So that'll be their first real test. They haven't really played anybody. They played the Browns. They played the Bengals. They played the Bucks. They haven't really played a who's who of tough opponents. So it remains to be seen. They get the Rams, but then after that, they go to the Redskins. So like I said, they'll win the games. I feel like they'll win the games that they should win, where they could struggle as those upper echelon teams, just because they haven't been there yet in those type of games with that kind of pressure. But the defense looks legit. Nick Bosa looks legit, as does the Bosa, his brother. So, you kind of expect that. Don't know if they're going to remain undefeated. The Patriots, just because they're the Patriots, they have a legitimate shot at going 16-0 in the regular season without much deciphering needed in that. But the 49ers, they are young. I do think that Rams game in week 6 this coming week could be their hiccup. But I think that they're for real and that they will win the games that they should win. They have a lot of talent, and the arrow is definitely pointing up for that squad. The opposite side of the spectrum is the Atlanta Falcons. Real quick, just touching on them. They can't get right now. They took another L. this time to the Houston Texans, 53-32. They allowed Deshaun Watson to go absolutely bananas. And when I say absolutely bananas, I'm selling him short because Will Fuller went bonkers. So Deshaun Watson for the game, 28-33, 84% completion. He threw 33 passes and had 84% completion percentage, 426 yards, 5 touchdowns. Will Fuller, like I told you, the boy had a day and a half. 16 targets, 14 catches. 16 targets, 14 catches. Somebody needs to cover this man. Legend has it he's still running free right now. 3 touchdowns on the day. The Atlanta defense has been decimated by injuries. We talked about this last episode, but at some point, you got to double the man. I know you're doing all you can to make sure that DeAndre Hopkins doesn't kill you, but he still had 7 catches for 88 yards on his own. So what did you really do? Not much. And then it's just tough. Atlanta, Matt Ryan threw 46 passes, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 2 sacks. It's rough, man. Atlanta, I don't know what to make of them. You thought that they would be not necessarily Super Bowl contenders. I didn't think that, but I didn't think that they would be bringing up the rear at 1-4 in the NFC South. They are 1 game behind Tampa Bay right now, who is 2-3, but they've looked like the much worse team so far. Just a team that can't seem to overcome the injuries on the defense, and then just unfortunate bad plays or bad play from the offense at unfortunate times. It's one of the strangest things and one of the sharpest, most drastic falls I've seen since after a Super Bowl loss in quite some time that I can think of, at least off the top of my head. So that's something to keep an eye on, man. Atlanta is really struggling this year, and I'm surprised. I don't know if anybody else is surprised, but I thought they would be a much tougher team for other teams to deal with, and so far they've been, I won't say a pushover, but it hasn't been great. When we come back, though, we're going to switch gears a little bit, talk about the NBA. Real quick, some weird things happening there internationally. Triple zeros, don't go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back. Triple zeros. Switching gears, talking about the NBA preseason. Like I told you last episode, man, the NBA preseason has the NFL preseason whooped. Now, it's only been 1 game for just about every team, but the stuff that we've gotten from this NBA preseason has dwarfed anything that the NFL preseason could ever hope to come and accomplish. And I don't want to hear no ifs, ands, or buts. If you want to add me, you can go ahead and add me. Please do add me at Josh G. Buck on Twitter. But like I was saying, back to the matter at hand. NBA preseason is lit, yo, and I'm not even talking about actual outcomes of games. I'm just talking about some of the things that we've been privy to. I showed you the James Harden 1-legged 3-point shot that we got to see. And then, ladies and gentlemen, basketball world, everybody, pay attention. Just pay attention.
They want him to shoot it.
And he does. Ben Simmons shoots the 3. The fans want it. They're asking him for it. And Ben Simmons is giving it to him. Joel Embiid comes onto the court and gives him a big hug. That has got to feel good. Let's take a look at it again.
It's beautiful. My boy shooting 3s. I love it. Look, man, I'm a huge Ben Simmons fan. His ability, his preternatural passing ability, his vision, his ability to defend 1 through 5. I don't know how many guys you are here saying that nowadays, other than him and LeBron. 1 through 5. LeBron not guarding 1s anymore, so it's really him and Giannis at this point. The big knock, the knock on Ben Simmons has been he has no consistent outside shot. No shot outside. Forget consistent. He has no outside shot. Boy, let him start knocking them down. Keep tempting them. All you're doing is letting me get more practice and more confidence. And we know a lot of times it can be a matter of confidence as much as it is a matter of mechanics. And by all accounts, he shot him in practice for the longest, just never in a game. If he's pulling these in a game, Philly's winning the championship if Ben Simmons is out here throwing or shooting three-pointers with consistency, with any sort of regularity with the rest of that lineup. Now, of course, they'd have to contend with the Lakers, who I have coming out of the West. But, boy, you better hope that Ben is not really ready to start knocking down threes with any sort of consistency. And then, in another piece of basketball nirvana that we got in the preseason, thank you, NBA preseason. I told you it's the best. I told you it's the best. Ready? You ready?
Again, he knows his lane, and he does a good job.
And Zion just pulls his way right to the hole.
Right hand. And that explodes. And let's look at it again. There's just one dribble here. One bounce, 1 2-step. He goes hard. That's too late.
It's going to be a lot of posters made this season, folks. I want you to be prepared. If nothing else, that team is going to be fun to watch because of Zion and those young Laker cast-offs and how they all mature together. But Zion is going to be booming on dudes left to right. Look, you might not know if his game can translate. You might not be sure about the longevity and his actual ceiling on an NBA team, an NBA landscape. But what you do know is he's going to boom some fools. Zion is going to put people in the basket, and I'm here for it. That was nice. It was simple. A simple one dribble, one hand, to the rack. But they're going to try to give this man Rookie of the Year at every possible turn. So just be prepared. I personally think it's going to be Michael Porter Jr. continuing the trend of gap year guys. But Zion, we all waited for it, right? Everybody kind of wanted to see what exactly it was going to be. We waited for it. We finally got it. It was beautiful. I'm happy it happened. Zion Jam, man, shooting threes is a good day. It's a really good day. Before we get out of here, man, we got to talk about a weird story coming out of the NBA and the Houston Rockets in particular. General Manager Daryl Morey tweeted out support for Hong Kong protesters. If you don't know, do yourself a favor and get educated on it. We're not going to dive into the political aspect of it here. But what happened afterward is interesting. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, immediately tweeted out a refute of Daryl Morey's tweets and saying that he speaks for himself and does not represent the Rockets organization. As we know, the Houston Rockets, the NBA, but in particular, the Houston Rockets has a very close relationship. I'll get to that in a moment. A very close relationship with China, and even in affiliation with the Chinese Basketball Association, which is ran by Yao Ming. Now, that has since had all ties severed. China has cut all ties with the Houston Rockets. Adam Silver had to come out with an apology for the apology, where he stated that he was not apologizing for Daryl speaking his mind, but for apologizing for the miscommunication of how this could offend people. And then ESPN, had a mandate to not discuss it even further. And like I said, I'm not going to go into the politics of it. It's just a really weird time. And it's funny to me to see the reactions of people who were so quick to tell certain people certain times to stick to the basketball court, and now are upset that people are telling Daryl Morey that he shouldn't say what he said. And the NBA is catching flack for coming down on Daryl Morey. It's a whole storm of craziness right now that has seen James Harden apologize to China. It's wild. It's really wild. Like I said, the NBA is known for being a very progressive league and being star-driven, player-first, player-friendly, fan-friendly, all those good things that you associate with the freedoms of being able to say what you want to say. But we see now that we've seen that there are limitations to what that freedom is. And apparently Daryl Morey stepped outside just enough to have to be addressed by Adam Silver. This is something to keep an eye on. It's not done yet. Like I said, China has cut off all ties with the NBA right now. We'll see if they are able to do something to get it back. It's a large market, the NBA. That's why the NBA doesn't want to lose it, and it has been doing a lot of backstepping or backtracking over the Morey tweet. People are with Morey. The people seem to be with Morey right now. NBA seems to be on the China side. This is something to keep an eye on. Like I said, the NBA had a great showing internationally. Just to have this happen at this point in time, not something that they were, I'm sure, looking forward to, but definitely something they're going to have to deal with right now. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Triple Zeros, guys. Check back in with us this weekend, either Friday or Saturday. We're going to have another episode where we're going to talk about the Week 6 NFL lineup and the rest of the happenings in the rest of the week for the NBA. Until then, this has been Jukes and Jumpers. I'm out.